Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for a short story discussion that comes to us from the Oxford Book of American Short Stories, compiled by Joyce Carol Oates. Look, this is about Edgar Allan Poe. And if there's one thing I know about Edgar Allan Poe, not only have you read this short story, not only are you intimately probably familiar with this short story, but if you are serious enough about reading and or writing to be on a random YouTube channel about books and such, probably you have the complete collection of Edgar Allan Poe somewhere on your bookshelf. Also, I'm willing to bet 75% of you watching did not buy that collection for yourself. It is a weird thing that people who think you are the weird writer guy, the weird reader girl, you must like Edgar Allan Poe. But obviously, you schmuck, you do, because you're here, and we're going to talk about the Telltale Heart. Now, what happens in the Telltale Heart? We have a speaker who is laboring over the facts of what happened, and you think he's crazy, don't you? You would think he's a madman, but he's not. Look, madmen act compulsively. Our speaker planned everything out. Now, what did he plan out? He just so happened to have planned out the fact that he needed to murder an old man with whom he lives, because that guy's got some weird eye juice stuff going on. Can't deal with the weird eye juice stuff going on. Gotta kill him. Gotta go. Gotta kill him. So, what we're gonna do is not just kill him, because we're not a madman. What we're gonna do is we are going to painstakingly, over the course of hours, open his bedroom door at night just to get a look at him, just to get a peek. After that, what we're going to do is accidentally wake him up. And when he wakes up, look, it just so happens that what we get to see as the old man wakes is the weird eye juice stuff, okay? You would have killed him too. So our speaker does that. Our speaker kills the guy. And then, under pain of persecution, but not really, and the officers are just kind of there asking, what happened here? What's going on? Why are people saying that there were weird noises? Well, then you got to admit to murder, right? Didn't have to, but he did. Now look, here's what I want to talk about with this short story. The story asks us up front a very simple question. What is our speaker? The person communicating the story to us. What is our speaker? That's what the story literally asks us. That's the question the story literally asks us. Will you say that I am mad? But the story begs a very different question. The short story begs the question, who is our speaker? Who is it that's talking to us? Who is it that is communicating with us? Who is this madman? Who is it that was living in such close quarters with said old man with the weird eye juice stuff going on? It had to be murdered, obviously. Is it the old man's son? Is that why he's living in such close quarters with him? No, I don't think so. Why? He refers to him as the old man. He doesn't say dad. He doesn't say John. my pops. None of that stuff. It's the old man. Straight up, flat out, the old man. Is it his lover? No. No, I don't think it is. Why? Though they are living in such close quarters, they do, in this abode, in this domicile, have some place of their own. Some place such that the speaker has to sneak into the old man's room. But there's a couple weird things going on. There's a couple real weird things going on. Well, I mean, besides the weird eye juice for which someone has to die. Number one, upon hearing these noises in the middle of the night of our speaker sneaking into his room, the old man does not shout out our speaker's name, does not presume to know who the intruder is. Number two, it is stated that there is some bit of unease about the neighborhood, and that is why all of the windows and such are locked at night. Number three, the neighbors were suspicious enough, seemingly, if we are to believe the speaker, the neighbors were suspicious enough to have called the police. They didn't go to the house and say, hey, is everything okay? No, they went to the Bobbies. They went to the police and said, hey, you better go check over here, see what's going on. We don't want to do it because the old man's got this weird eye stuff going on. When I talk to him, I just look at it. I don't look at him. I look at it. You know, where am I supposed to look? One of those things. You know, you knock on the door, not me. Do the neighbors even know our speaker is living with the old man? Does the old man even know our speaker is living with the old man? He says they're courteous to each other, right? He says, in fact, look, this is one of the things. Were they lovers? No, I don't think so. Though he said he loved the old man. They had their own places. We're not in all that familiar a territory. We can't be. Simply because of the way things are the way to which things are referred. Simply because the way things are talked about in the short story. For one, on 68 here, right at the beginning of the story is only 4 or 5 pages, right? So we're not going to be able to dig very far into the story to get something that has to ring our bell. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. Why is that weird? I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week during which I killed him. That whole week, man, I was nice to this old duddy, and it was hard, right? Because he's got this weird eye thing going on, and I just had to kill him, but I wanted to be nice first, right? I wanted him to go kind of peacefully, you know. Didn't want him to see it coming with that weird eye, see it coming. A week is not a long time. A week is not a very long time, but we're playing it up as if it were. Why? It doesn't seem that our speaker has any sort of, it doesn't seem as if our speaker is encumbered to the passage of time. It might be that a week was a large portion of the time that our speaker knew the old man that had the eye thing, you know? If that is true, it leads us to believe that our speaker probably a bit of a transient. Now, this is a little, I am a little more probably sensitive to this type of argument than many people, strictly because the type of work that I do, I have interacted with a whole lot of homeless folks, and spending as much time in libraries as I have in my life, I've interacted with a whole lot of homeless folk. I'm not making the argument that being transient, being homeless, being one of these people makes you crazy. But a lot of crazy people end up as transients, end up as homeless folk, end up as the type of person that might be invited into someone's house. A lot of transient people have problems that lead to them not being able to, say, make rent on the first of each month. This seems to me to be a transient, probably invited into the old man's home out of the kindness of his ticker, that ticker that's strong enough that our speaker hears it even after the old man with the eye thing is gone. Now this, as I had previously mentioned, the Oxford Book of American Short Stories compiled by Joyce Carol Oates. Joyce Carol Oates gives us an introduction to each of the authors. A bit of a strange thing to see coming from Joyce Carol Oates, because all of the Joyce Carol Oates that I've read has been fiction. It would be perhaps more interesting to me if what Joyce Carol Oates was doing here was commenting on the fiction that she included in a Harold Bloom type fashion, rather than the artist. But a lot of what we get in the introduction to each piece is some artist biography. I want to read you something that is handed to us here from Joyce Carol Oates on page 67, right before the short story. Orphaned at 3, abandoned by the well-to-do Richmond merchant who adopted him, prone to illness, mental instability, and alcoholism through his short life, and after his death vilified by his very biographer, Poe has come to typify in lurid excess the fate of the imaginative genius who is forced to sell himself in the marketplace. When you're forced to sell yourself in the marketplace, what you're doing oftentimes is writing just from experience more than imagination. And what we have here is we have our speaker, sort of a crazy feller that is a bit transient, murdering the person who had invited him into his home. Poe, we learn here in this short paragraph, probably you knew he was a bit of a kook, abandoned by the well-to-do Richmond merchant who adopted him. So, Poe's old man with the weird eye thing in his life ended up abandoning him. So maybe there's a little bit of self-portrait going on here, but that is not the most interesting thing to me. When exploring this thread of who is our speaker as opposed to what is our speaker, I think for sure he's a transient. I think that much is made, I won't say obvious, but I think is made clear enough to someone who is willing to accept that interpretation in this short story. But methinks the lady doth protest too much. I want to go back to that opening sentence. True, nervous, very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? True, nervous, very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? And then the rest of the story is sort of this, basically a preamble. Because the short story ends where the beginning of whoever the speaker is speaking to would be looking him dead in the face. Like, whoa, man. Why are we in this cell together, right? This story is a lot of, hey, I'm not crazy. I'm not the madman. Yeah, I killed the guy. You should have seen the eye thing going on. You'd have done it too. You probably would not have done it as thoroughly and as well thought out as had I done it. The speaker comes to this short story prepared. So prepared, in fact, that it seems rehearsed. So prepared, in fact, that it seems rehearsed enough, I think we have to question, A, whether or not we are the first person to whom this speaker has told said story, but B, is this the first time this speaker has had to use this defense? The speaker came prepared, and I think that is quite possibly the scariest thing about one of the short stories that is often touted as one of the scariest short stories of all time is that it doesn't seem like the first time this short story was told. It seems to me as if our speaker here is going through the whole rigmarole of, look, I'm not the crazy guy, right? I'm not the crazy guy. Because he's gone through the rigmarole of, look, I'm not the crazy guy. I'm not the crazy guy before. How many times has he found in his transient life some sweet old person that might invite him into their home for a little while, but that weird old lady, she's got this hair, and I couldn't stand it. You wouldn't have been able to stand it either. She'd wake up in the morning and just be all over the place, you'd have killed her too. And before that, there was this nice lady. She was a nice lady. She had these stupid glasses and these cats, okay? The cats, by the way, delicious. But that lady, you'd have killed her too. The way she would put those glasses on in the morning. So it leads me to wonder if this is a serial type of thing coming from this speaker. Is this the first time this individual has done this? Is this the first time this individual has used the I'm not crazy defense and whatnot? You hear the police too? They're not coming here. They're not coming here. I didn't do anything. I'm not crazy.